Hello there. This is Rom Wills coming back at you with yet another podcast. Being a man of power. Being a man of power, this is very important. Understand something. As a man, you need to have power. You need to have power over yourself, your environment, everything. Like I've always talked about a man having boundaries. And that boundary is important. That's why a man is ready to fight someone who crosses that boundary. That boundary starts about like within his personal space, and then it expands to his property and everything. That's because he has power over it. That's why you get some men, you come across their yard, they ready to fight. I've told the story before when I was living in a house in Edgewood, Maryland and stuff. There was a period where there were some young boys who were jumping over the back fence. It was literally a white picket fence, and they were jumping over it, cutting across the yard to cut into the neighborhood. And I caught one time. I caught one, and I'm out there, nothing on but some shorts, no shoes, socks, or shirt on, and just letting him know. And he was bigger than me, but you know, my issue with him was he was crossing my boundary. I told his ass to turn back around and then let people in the neighborhood don't come across there. So that stopped it. But see, it was about that boundary. Any real man will have that. That's because what he has power over. That's why even if a man he could be in a marriage with some balls busting woman, but he will still find some way to have power, or at least over himself. But a real man of power ain't even going to have that ball busting woman, because remember what I said about a boundary. See, a woman becomes a part of that man's boundary. The man's children becomes a part of that boundary. When they're in that boundary, they are protected because he runs that boundary. But for a man to even get to that place of power, well, he has to be working on his sovereignty. And it starts first by having control over himself. You know, when he follows something and does something, it's because of his will. He's not doing it because somebody tells him to do it. He's cooperating with them at best, but he's making the willful decisions. Like, you know what? I'll go along with that. Even on a job, he's doing it because he's getting paid for it, but not because he's being forced. And every man has to have that attitude. And then he has to work to control himself. And then I'm going to tell you what, y'all notice I don't talk about money too much on this channel, but I talk about it on my Money Matters channel. That's because money gives a man the power to create his boundaries. It gives him the power to get that home or place to stay where he can further that boundary, to get food, to do the things he has to do. And it also gives him influence. And I don't mean like influence some woman to sleep with them, but I mean, you go into some like expensive place or something like that, they know you got money, they're going to treat you different. But that's power. Also, if you look at power on another level, it's about, you know, spreading your influence. It's about spreading your influence. It's about having influence. That's not necessarily money. You know, your personality can have power. People are responding to what you're saying and following along according to your will. Now, you know, I just said every man got to have control of his own will, but let's be real out here. Most people are sheep. Most people are followers. Most people are the herd. And you know what? Everything I'm saying in this brief podcast is not going to apply to everybody, because a lot of people don't want it because there's safety in the numbers. There's safety in the herd. But if you rolling with me, you doing everything you can to create your own small space of the world. I remember a black Muslim brother told me one time, every man should have his corner of the world that he has total mastery of. That's important. Every single man want to work to that point. Every single man wants to work to that point. And I'm going to be real with you. You got to be able to, if necessary, defend that space, defend your boundary with brute force. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts. Any man who's not willing to do that, well, he's not a man. He's not living according to his will. He's living according to someone else's will. That is unacceptable. And you want to have it. You want to have power so you can live life on your terms. You know, because even in my book, Nice Guys and Players, I say every man should have a side business, something he has total control over, even if he don't need it. He could be making six figures in some career that he actually loves. Okay, that's cool. All right. So what does he control that's totally up to him? I'm serious. Every man should. Like, yeah, you love your job, but what do you have that's totally under your control? You make the decision. And psychologically, that actually brings out your manhood because you have that. Because one thing with masculine energy is territorial. It's territorial. That's the key thing to understand. That's what you want to go for. That's what you want to seek. And every man should be working towards that. This ain't about, hey, look, for real, the women, shoot, the most they can do with that is cooperate with you. It's still your world. And even when you're dealing with women, you should have some type of power. It shouldn't be like you doing stuff according to her whims. You know? Now, ain't nothing wrong with compromising on something, because ultimately any relationship you're going to compromise, but you still need to be going in with your integrity intact, with your boundary intact. And at most, she got permission to maybe cross your boundary. Men need to do that. Men need to stand up. You know, that's always a thing. You got to have that power. Always work in the power. Like, one of the things you're doing is developing your money-making skills. That's power right there. When you have the skills, shoot, if you got to go from job to job, because I know being totally independent is very, very tough, and you might have to go job to job, even if you got that side hustle. All right. But you have some power if you have the skills. You develop the skills to do different things. That's a very important thing. That's a very important thing. And that's how you got to roll with it. And you want to have that because, trust me, when you in a position where you have control over your home, your immediate surroundings, when you have control over how you make money, when you even have power in how you deal with the opposite sex, it's the way to go. It's the very important thing. And every single man needs to work towards that. No ifs, ands, and buts. And this has nothing to do with how you build, how you look, anything like that. Your social class, whatever. Because any man can build up to something bigger. All right? So that's the important thing. And that's what every man wants to work for. You want to develop your power. You want to be a man of power. Think on this and then apply it. Talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.